Hey everybody, this is Theoretical Bullshit once again, and this is finally part 2 to Christianity, Faith, and Humility, and this is a response to Jack and Jack's Gays, Atheist, Faith, and Virtue post. Okay, Jack, I'm just going to jump right into this. I have no idea how long this is going to take or how much material I've got, but okay, we both agreed that faith is making a statement about reality and living your life and just assuming that it's true, doing everything that you do as if it's true without in any way bothering to investigate it or validate it or find any evidence or have any reasoning or logic to, deductively conclude that it's true. Just make a statement, you say that it's true, and then you live your life as if it's true, and it's uncontestable. And you said that, and we agreed on that, and you said yes, but everyone does that, and you said you don't care. Atheists, Christians, everybody in all walks of life do that same thing. And I was gonna contest that. I was gonna be like, no, I don't make statements about reality and then just live my life as if they're true without validating them or in some way or another. And I was gonna try to defend that, but I realized that I don't know specifically enough what it is you're saying when you say that everybody does that. So, can you clarify that? How is it that everybody, before I respond, how is it that everybody does that? Everybody makes a statement about reality and without any verification lives their life as if that's true without bothering to find good reasons to believing it. Okay, so that's true. And I also have another question for you. I've heard many Christians use the phrase, I know it's true because I have faith, and they'll cite Hebrews where it says, faith is the evidence of things unseen, and so people go, I know because I have faith, I know that God exists because I have faith. Do you think that is a fallacious statement? Do you think that there's an error, a logical error, or just a flaw in thinking in saying, I know it's true because I have faith? That'll be interesting to find out. Okay, you talked a little bit about morality, and you said that morality in a secular universe is based on science, and the thing about science is that it's good at it can tell you what's beneficial and what's not beneficial, but it can't tell you what's good or bad. And I kind of got a kick out of that because it kind of reminds me of my favorite Shakespeare quote, which is nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And I think that speaks to what a secular morality is like. Not just what a secular morality not just how atheists think, but I think that all morality is based on what's beneficial and what tends to work and what doesn't. Now, if you're a Christian, you might believe that it came from God, and that it's objectively true out there. But as an atheist, I would argue that the only reason you believe that is because our ancestors a long time ago figured this out and then wrote it down and attributed it to God. But I do believe, for me, I believe that anybody in all walks of life, no matter what your religion is, the morality that you have was arrived at by a sort of trial and error, what's beneficial, what's not type of reasoning. And when it comes to, the benefits, societally, culturally speaking, somebody once said to me, if you're an atheist and you believe that morality is just based on what's beneficial and what's detrimental, then you have to believe that Hitler was completely justified in doing what he did with the Holocaust because it benefited him. And I think the problem with that statement was that person doesn't understand how what's beneficial and what is detrimental factors into morality. We also, as a society, as a culture, we also factor in what's beneficial to other people, what's beneficial to all of us as a whole, what collectively seems to work the best. And I think that's a great deal where morality comes from. Whether you're a Christian and believe it comes from somewhere else or not, I as an atheist would argue that is what morality is. And so I don't believe that there is a good or bad that exists anyway. I don't believe that good is something that exists outside of consciousness, independent of my mind, independent of thinking and perception and thought, or bad, in the same way. I think that those are conceptions and projections of human consciousness and the human mind. But so I would say yeah, I agree with you that that science does have a way of arriving at morality, in that the way that morality is gone about is a very, I use the word science because it's a very scientific method in the way that we discover our own morality and figure out how to be moral. In that it revolves around like observation and repetition, and I do this and this happens back, and sort of there is a sort of testing method. Even a child who's learning what works and what isn't morally tends to have there's a very scientific, whether we're conscious of it or not, thought process that goes into figuring that out. So, to make a very, very, very long story short, while it's true that science cannot offer us what is good and bad, but rather what is beneficial and what is not beneficial to society and to ourselves collectively, I would argue that that's okay, because there is no such thing as good or bad, independently of our own consciousness and our own reasoning. But that's because I'm an atheist. So, another thing you said that made me wonder. You said that every culture is different, morally speaking. Like every culture throughout society, throughout time, geographically, historically, has tended to had its different ideas of what's moral and what's virtuous and what isn't. And that made me I had the thought, I wonder if you have read any C.S. Lewis. He wrote a book called Case for Christianity, in which one of the arguments he wrote for the existence of God was that we all tend to have a moral code written on our hearts, and he says that's evident because everybody knows what right and wrong is. Everybody knows that hurting somebody is bad, and everybody has this sense of justice, and even children can understand that something is fair or unfair, and we all have the same morality. We all have the same moral code written on our hearts, and therefore there must be a morality maker. And that was essentially one of his arguments for the existence of God. And I'm wondering, because since you have it, you are saying that different cultures and different people are different, have different ideas of morality and what's right. I'm wondering if you subscribe to that argument, if you agree with that argument, or if you think that's a flawed argument like I do. Just given that it's obvious that it's not evident what is right universally and what is wrong. In the simplest things, you as a Christian might believe that lying, just even the simple stuff, lying is wrong, absolutely wrong. You just don't lie ever. You're not allowed to. And I might argue that I think that sometimes in certain situations lying is the more virtuous, moral, ethical thing to do, in terms of scenarios where you need to protect somebody, or just different cases depending on the situation. And so do you think that our ideas of morality, our perceptions of what's moral and what's not, and the consistency of that tends to be evidence for a morality maker? Do you think that's a valid argument by Lewis? So that's that question. I'm going to try to wrap this up now. In conclusion, you said that you admitted that there's good faith and there's bad faith. And you likened that to courage. There's good courage and there's bad courage in the same respect. And so it sounds like you're not, because I didn't get I don't feel like I got an answer out of you in the last video. It sounds like you're not saying that faith itself, the act of having faith in something, is more virtuous than not having faith in something. It sounds like you're arguing for faith in Christianity, faith in your beliefs. And I just want you to correct me if I'm wrong about that. But would you say that somebody who has no faith in anything, who doesn't believe in things that they don't have evidence for, whatever, is less virtuous than somebody who might have faith but in the wrong thing? Or do you believe that faith in itself, regardless of the content of that faith, but just the process of having faith, is in itself a virtue? Regardless of content, regardless of what the faith is in, is that more virtuous than somebody like myself who would claim to not have faith in anything at all? That's my question. That's the big crux of why I actually responded to you the first time anyway. Okay, man. I hope this is to your liking.